Hey folks, Steve here with a very special unboxing video for you today. We're going to be looking at the newly released Roma Victrix Campaigns in the Roman World, published by Compass Games, game designed by Paul Collio. And yeah, this one's actually been a long time coming. This was on the pre-order for Compass Games now for several years as the product was developed, and I think at one point it was planned to come out a year or two ago, and then it was put on hold so that they could add more content to the game and actually expanded the content, is my understanding. Um, and now finally it has arrived. So we're going to take a look at the components and check everything out here. I'm actually pretty stoked on this. This is one that I've had, on my pre-order, list for quite some time, kind of patiently waiting for this release. Now, this is something, as we flip to the back of the box, I just want to show kind of what we're looking at here. This is a big, heavy box, by the way. Um, let's see, we're going to see a mounted map, standard size 22-inch by 34-inch, 10 counter sheets, so that's quite a lot, 6 major power display mats, 1 event card deck, 1 province card deck, 1 rules booklet, 1 scenario booklet, and 2 six-sided dice. Complexity medium. Time scale 1 turn is 1 year. We're talking about provinces. You can see the map here. It's not a terribly complicated looking map, really. You have very broad areas in the provinces that are marked with sort of like income value, basically, and are part of regions. It's going to be kind of hard to see, but we'll see this on the map. Unit scale will be legions, garrisons, fleets, and warbands. 2 to 6 players, best with 6. I think that's going to be for some of the larger scenarios. Suitability for solitaire is medium, so okay, that's fair. Average time to play 3 to 8 hours, 3 to 8 hours based on scenario. I would have to imagine if there's some of the bigger scenarios with 6 players, that's probably going to be the longest running one. And the rest of this text, if you want to like pause the video and read the rest, that's up to you. But I think we can take a look here. You can see there will be the cards, and then for the units, I mean, this is going to be simple iconography here on the counters. We'll get a closer look at that. So let's break the shrink on this guy. Now this sits kind of in the same realm as games like, say, Pax Romana from GMT, or even Imperium Romanum, which was last published by Decision Games and kind of had some production challenges of its own there. So this is kind of like, hey, here's another hope for another Roman era game that allows you to have a lot of different game experiences all in one box. That's kind of my hope for this. We'll see how that works out. Taking off the box lid here, we can see they give us plenty of baggies. That's nice. Will this be enough for everything? I don't know, but at least you got a head start to this. The 2 dice, black and white, nothing too special for that, but good to go. And then immediately we've got cards. Now we've got cards that are in these easy to open sleeves, I should point out. So you're going to peel this off, and then you're going to be able to slide the cards out. So we're going to be able to do that. It looks like they're all packaged this way, which is actually probably the nicer way to package these cards, to be honest, because it makes it so much easier to get them open. So I'm actually going to give Compass big props on this. Sometimes you get the card sets that are like shrinked and it's super tight, and you're careful of damaging the cards as you try to pry out a cut in the packaging. This is actually going to be really nice. So let's just see, just that easy, no danger to the cards, and we're going to get these guys out again, easy peasy. And you can see, so this is Numidia. It gives you some historical information around the actual province itself. It's in Africa. We know how much it is worth. It's worth 2. Mauritania, so on and so forth. Judea, Syria, Baetica, so on, so on, so on, so on, so on. So a lot of province cards. Now, the other nice thing that's going to be with this card baggie, if I can get it, is I can actually put these away right back where they came from. So if you want to store your cards like this, though, I think once you get to playing the game, it's not going to be as easy to fit, get these guys back in. You can actually stick them right back in the baggies. So I actually like these baggies quite a lot. This is definitely the way to ship cards in my mind. So that's goodness. Um, these look like there's going to be a different set of cards inside. So let's take a look at that quick. So we've got more provinces, right? And Egyptus, Egypt, kind of easy. Now we have event cards, and just to kind of look at these a little more clearly, so playing an ambush, assassination attempt, automatic land, naval interception, withdraw before combat, barbarian raid. So there's a nice, easy set of these event cards. Have to look at them. Minor rebellion, that's probably going to suck. So you can kind of get a sense of what gets included. The art on the cards are nice. It's not it's not intrusive. It's just big enough to give some flavor to the card that you're looking to play. Not all of them have art, but that's nice. I'm not going to complain on that. I suspect there are other event cards in some of these other card packs, and again, I'm going to be able to get these cards right back into the little packaging that they came in. I think if you were to try to get the cards organized just the perfect way that you want, it's going to be a little harder to get these guys back in here, but I do like them. And it looks like there are some clarification cards in here. I'm going to open this one up because that's kind of an eye catch here. So let's see what the deal is. So it's just a plain white card giving us some clarifications. This deck contains 7 corrected cards. Please replace, okay, and ignore reference to field army. These are not yet used. Must be coming maybe in an expansion. So that's an interesting thing. The potential that maybe we've got expansion to come at some point. I don't know. I could easily see how we could get to expansion content. So I'm going to stick these back in again. The baggie can shut itself. It's sticky on one end. You can just seal it back up. I really like that. I hope more shops pick that up. So more province cards, lots of province cards. This will help keep track that you control it, I guess, and to have something to read and enjoy. So I'm kind of behind all of that. So plenty of those to work with. So easy peasy. We have some of the player displays. So let's look at this. They do appear to be color-coded, so this is like the purple players thing. We have Treasury up top here. New unit creation, costs and maintenance, things to keep in mind. A place to put your units, and leaders, and leader display, what units are with which leader, and so on. So you just keep everything on hand. There's no back to this. It's white on the other side, so you probably lay this out. So you probably need a fair amount of table space, right? Standard map, but then if you're going to have several players with a big kind of player sheet like this, you're going to need a lot of space. You just see there's a similar one for black counters, I'm going to guess, because the icon here is black. You see red, green, sort of off gray. And then there's another purple one, though it does look like it's maybe a slightly different shade of purple. Like it's a little bit deeper. I don't know if that's a trick of the light. So, this, I might have to look at this and hope that I didn't accidentally get like an extra purple one. But that's okay. We'll see with the counters, I guess, what the situation will be. Now, these counters, I can already tell are going to fall right out of the counter sheets. Now, if you get a good look at these are brown core, and they look nice and robust looking counters. And in terms of the printing, they're all registering really good. There's no bleed over. I'm a little afraid if I go opening this plastic, am I going to end up with counters flying all over the place? I'm a little worried that that's the case, but let's see if I can quickly break the seal here. There we go. And we'll see what we got. I'm a little We'll see what the counters are going to be, because I think that's really the key thing. If we have 6 player sheets, you know, what are the counter sheet equivalents, and do we have extra purple or what? So let's just do it this way. I shouldn't knock anything out. Okay, so you can see there's certainly, these are purple faction. The banner on these counters are purple, as best as I can tell. So you have auxiliary units, you have heavy infantry, you have legions. And you can imagine, depending on what scenario you're playing, like you might not have access to legions because you're just having non-Roman factions. There's cavalry, fleets. So all this is like the purple faction, I want to say. On this next sheet, we have, whoa, almost lost some legions already, guys. Oof. Don't want to punch these. Red faction. All the same sort of deal, all looking good. I did not show the back, but so that you can see. So this is the red faction. I'm going to very carefully set these aside. This is looking like the black. Or is this purple? This is more purple. I guess I'm a little concerned. So it seems like it's feasible that you have 2 purple factions, and it could be on my. I don't think I have eye color issues, like not eye color issues. Color blindness. I don't have color blindness, so I don't think I'm seeing an issue. But this is another purple counter set. Now this is noting this is sheet 3 of 8, so it's not like it's a straight up duplicate. But the colors seem awfully close. So here's your green counter sheet, all the same kind of digs. And we have sort of this slightly different color set. This one looks more black, at least. Try to make sense of that. Sort of the brown off brown. And then we have garrisons for everybody. So if I really look at it, you know what I wonder? There are 2 different shades of purple. You can see it on this a little bit better than. So you see up here, it's kind of a lighter purple, and this is more of a deeper purple. Smoke on the water. But boy, that's going to be a real pain in the butt. So I'm a little like, okay, out of the gate, maybe one criticism: don't have 2 purples. You know, that could have probably have been any other color, right? What are we missing? We got purple, red. You could almost call that blue, and maybe that's what it's supposed to be, is a more blue color, but it doesn't look blue. It looks purple. So if that's supposed to be blue, they probably needed to change the color settings, you know, the ratios of, you know, red, blue, green on that to make it a little more blue or light blue, because they just seem to merge together really easily. Now here we have, you know, barbarian units, or barbarian counters at least, and various other administrative markers, pillage. Here again, if you want to look, it's, so I think that's what it is. I think this almost purple is blue, but it looks really purple without comparing it to purple. So if you've got an issue differentiating dark blue and purple, this could give you an issue. But I think that's what it is. It's not 2 purples, it's purple and blue. The blue is awfully close to purple just because they're really deep, dark colors on the color range. You can tell the difference there, I think, right? Look at this 100 versus this 1, and that 100 versus this 100, right? Like this is the blue indigo, and this is the sort of purple, like actual purple color. So watch that. That could get confusing. Would not surprise me if in play you've got people who are mixing these up, maybe even mixing up this dark blue with black. And like this sort of like gray could have been a different color as well. So the color choices I'm a little feeling funky about, and I just punched a a bunch of counters, guys. Just that easy. I guess worth showing on the back here, actually. So here's the surprise. You don't know how strong some of these Barbarian units are. On the back side, you will see their strength ranging here from 6 to 7, and there's all kinds as I look on the back of these counters. Watch out. I just went to set that counter sheet down, and I've got a bunch of Barbarians falling out. So this will not be a hard game to punch. Word to the wise, be careful. Okay. Only thing left in the box, let's see, we've got, all right, so here's the map. We're gonna break this out for a second. I'm gonna try to be really careful with this. This is mounted board, and it's the nice kind of somewhat thin mounted maps that we've had for many years at this point. It's really not that special, but it's always good to see that we're not regressing. So I don't have the map fully unfolded, but just so you can kind of see. So we have some additional, so the sequence of play is on here, attrition table, places for the cards, the game turn track, and a basic general records track, I would suspect. And then you see here the actual things on the map where there are different, provinces: Germania Orientalis, Germania Transalbis, Vandalia, Marcomania, Suabia, Germania Magna. So these are all part of Germania, with individual values for each province for that control of that province. So you see here, there's not a level of detail of like terrain or cities and such. So if you're trying to get a good look at this, you can already kind of you can say that the map does not go to the level of detail that maybe you would see in an Imperium Romanum, where like there are hexes have terrain, or even Pax Romana, where there are some terrain types, or at least accounting for terrain in that game. Here, it's just such a higher level, which might not be to everybody's taste. You see the sequence of play, there's a cleanup phase, attrition, economic, where you're building stuff, initiative, determination, and then move and operate. So I think as I look at some of this stuff, right, my only initial thought is I kind of wish there was more terrain for the map to differentiate, but I realize that that'd be a hard thing to keep track of. I mean, the way they do it in Imperium Romanum is actually kind of funky, though it can work. Oh, there's more counters. Okay, right, because we only had so many. Well, let's take a look at these really quick. There's just a couple more, and they're more, let's get the focus fixed here, guys. They are more garrisons and city icons, so minor, major cities, and some more units. Again, you can kind of tell the difference: purple, red, blue, green, black. I don't know, gray, I guess is what that other color is. And then on the back you can see some major cities being noted here. So more counters in these baggies. I'm not going to open this up, but we should talk about the books that come in this additional slide baggie. I'm probably just going to ditch that here almost immediately. So we have the rules of play. And to show this is going to be 2-column format, full color glossy. So pretty nice. It's going to be hard if there's errata to really make note of that. You might need to use a ballpoint pen and just mark that something's errata. Maybe you could write it in pretty good here. You find a margin. I don't know that there's a whole lot of errata yet. The game just came out. But it looks like, I mean, everything in here looks nice. I mean, it's kind of hard to say. Everything's, written up in section, subsection, like most wargame rules. There's a couple of pictures for examples, not a lot, but there are a few. So combat example here, showing the red player taking some legions, some cav and auxilia to fight the what looks like purple or blue in Pannonia with their heavy infantry and barbarian infantry. So there's a differentiation of the unit types and probably the factions and what you're allowed to build. All told, if we look at, where do the rules kind of peter out, the rules are look like they wrap up at page 29. Then there's a description of all the different cards and what looks to be an extended example of play. Yes, example of play. There's quite a lot here. It looks like there's probably some solitaire rules, okay, and variant counters for optional rules and things like that. So I think there's a baseline here. You've got some recommended ways to play it solitaire, which is always good. You have optional rules and variants that you could throw in. I think, I'm going to want to, in absence of terrain in the provinces, I would probably want to ratchet up as much detail as I can. You can do without terrain on the map, because basically, if there's going to be a fight somewhere in that province, they're going to find a suitable place to have a fight, I guess, would be the thought process. So you can kind of miss it. But if you look at like these pictures, there is a lot of density of counters on the map. So there's going to be some stacks. There's going to be some things that build up in the territories that you own. I think I'm definitely going to want to read this example of play as one of the first things I do, because I think that will help get a sense of the way the game is really played in reality, and what to think about and how to play it. This is available, I believe, on the website now, or at least it was on the Kickstarter page. So if you want to find it, it's out there. This gives you combat percentages for losses. I think when I first read the rule book, the combat system did remind me a lot of Pax Romana. So for me, going from Pax Romana to this, I suspect I'm going to be able to move very quickly through it. Whether or not, the games will be truly comparable, or will this beat out Pax Romana, I think remains to be seen. But I think that's probably the nearest comparison, is this to Pax Romana. That's going to be, to me, the big comparison. Pax Romana was kind of a meaty game with a lot of chrome. It's going to be a question of, if this game has less chrome, do you get that much more playability out of it, or do you lose some maybe historical detail? That'll be the test. And then you have the scenario book, which is quite thick, by the way. I mean, let's just notice the binding here, right? It's got an actual square binding, glue binding here. This thing is running what? Having trouble finding the page numbers on the pages, so this is a fair number. So let's look at it this way here at the scenario listing. So you can see Second Punic War. So that's the earliest, right? Second Punic War. That's the only Punic War we get, but I'm sure that somebody's going to be able to come up with a more. I mean, I don't think that it would be hard to come up with additional scenarios for this game yourself. I'll put it that way. I suspect it'd be very easy to kind of develop your own scenarios. That's probably why expansions are possible for this game. Like, really not that hard to imagine what you could get. So, Second Punic War, the Mithridatic Wars, First Triumvirate, Julius Caesar versus Pompey Magnus, which is great. Second Triumvirate, Year of the Four Emperors, Trajan, Trajanus Optimus Princeps, the Great Civil War from 193 to 197. Oh man, I'm sorry guys, I'm like Butterfingers today. The Imperial Crisis, the War of the Tetrarchy, which is making me think, is Wars of the. Which one of these is going to be with Aurelianus? Or I'm sorry, not Aurelianus, Aurelian. Which one's going to have Aurelian, I guess, is what I'm going to be interested in. I gotta double check the dates on these. Go all the way where we have Alaric the Goth, Attila the Hun, and out to Justinianus. I'm going to be butchering names today, guys. I'm so sorry. Now, there's a couple of these later scenarios that look like they're a bit interesting here. The Conquest of the Empire, 117 AD, is a hypothetical. We also have the Expansion of Rome, which is a solitaire, capable, and hypothetical scenario, so that might be worth a look, especially for someone like me playing solitaire a lot. There's a variant of the Second Triumvirate, where Lepidus is a credible commander. I'm not sure what that means. But then the opening pages here kind of articulate the way these things are set up and how to interpret the setup information that you get. And if you want to look, I mean, it's going to be worthwhile to really try to parse out the second Punicore stuff. So this is for 2 to 5 players. It's going to be a little hard for you guys. I can maybe try to zoom it in a little bit. So 2 to 5 players. If it's 2 player, it's going to be Rome and Carthage. If it's 3 players, you're going to have somebody playing Carthage and the Seleucid Kingdom, the one of the successor states. And then the third player is playing Macedonia and Egyptus, or there's a different configuration that you could pick. And you can keep expanding where if you've got 5 players, Rome, Egypt, Carthage, Macedonia, Seleucid. I guess I should say Macedonia if I'm going to say Seleucid, huh? Or Macedonian Seleucid kingdom. So you've got your kind of primary successor states, and then Rome and Carthage proper. They each have different victory objectives as defined there. And then we've got a succession process of who's the leader if one of their leaders dies. There are special rules and limitations. There's notes saying that there are indeed mountain passes between certain provinces. So that's kind of interesting. So rather than it be on the map, there's sort of a like, hey, in this time period, these mountain passes exist and are going to make things difficult. That's probably a nice compromise from the way Imperium Romanum does it. And then we've got the setup information, it looks like, in terms of who has what and where. And you can see then there's client states of Rome, which I'd have to go look at, how are these things managed. I think there's going to be a lot more than I explain. There's more to this game than I can properly explain. But then you can also need to set up the Barbaricum, which is where all those barbarian forces are going to set up. And then each one of these is going to be like this. So you've got all these different situations setups. The first triumvirate. There's going to be a lot to parse here, guys. Like, I don't know what to say. Each scenario has its own victory conditions, its own special rules, which is a good thing, by the way, and different setups for each faction. And that's that way through each and every one of these scenarios. And again, this is a fairly robust scenario. Attila the Hun, obviously, I think that's going to be an interesting one to parse. I almost want to jump right into that one and kind of see how this one works. Probably worth looking at quickly here is the hypothetical solitaire. That can play up to 6 people. It's a little hard with the binding. I'm afraid I got to be careful. I don't want to bust this thing. What this is going to look like, but 30 game turns, so you're going to be playing a fair bit. Not sure. Lots of setup information. There's a lot here, guys, and so I have to wonder. Here's my thing. So I think just based on an unboxing, I've got a few takeaways. This is a long video, but I don't care. I'm gonna say what I can say here, based on what I can see. One, this feels like it's trying to bridge game mechanics of Pax Romana and maybe Imperium Romanum. I see that as a good thing. That's a good thing. Both those games have a lot of baggage, and if this game in play can deliver a like experience for less overhead, I think that's going to be really, really good. The other thing that comes to mind is while the game comes with 20 scenarios, you can't be mad about that, by the way. It definitely feels like it includes more scenarios from the Imperium Romanum period than Pax Romana. And that's not to say that they couldn't have. It's just you've got to go define what those scenarios are like. And so it would not surprise me if the community is there for it, for a lot of folks to come up with their own scenarios using the stuff that comes in the box, right, to define some additional scenarios. And when I look at when I look at this list of scenarios, Vice, Imperium Romanum, which I could go grab and I could show them side by side, I don't think I need to do that. There is, I think, if I were to look at this, like almost all the scenarios in this game can probably be found in Imperium Romanum, so there's some overlap there. The second Punic War is the one that sticks out as like, oh, that's very different and that's much earlier. And that's more from Pax Romana kind of thing. So Pax Romana, despite its name, is really oriented around the time period that leads up to um, the rise of Julius Caesar and all that kind of stuff. Much more ancient oriented, the growth of Rome out of the peninsula. And there's a lot of scenarios that are out there in Pax Romana around the successor period, the successor kingdoms fighting. And they're noticeably absent here. But I don't think it would be very hard to set some of those up and try to translate some of those scenarios to this game. And the way I'm talking, I'm already thinking I'm gonna try to do that. I don't know. I might. I don't know if I have the time. I would like to do that. Let's see if we can translate some of those scenarios, and then this game becomes one that can manage the whole situation, right? Let's go back to the earliest time periods. Let's see if I can get a Pyrrhic War scenario put together. What does that look like? What does it look like to do successor wars from the Diadochi period? I'm probably not, I don't know, whatever the right way to say that is. I think you could probably get something very similar in Roma Victrix with a little bit of thinking and finagling. I think you could do it. So I'm interested to see what they do here. Obviously, it's going to be worthwhile to play the scenarios and to see how they work and if the game works well. I suspect it does. I hope it does. And then see what else can we do on this engine. What can we do to come up with additional scenarios, or if they want to package those up as an expansion at some point, that'd be fun. I feel like, given how really like self-referential the counters are, like you can kind of mix them up any way you want, and there's enough counters, I think you could come up pretty easily with some additional scenarios. So that's the challenge I'm going to make to the community. Let's make some additional scenarios of our own for this and see what happens. Maybe we'll see stuff in Paper Wars or beyond. But yeah, I'm just going to cut this video here because it's already too long. I'll get everything packaged back up. I'm pretty stoked on this. I think this could be a really excellent game package. It really, I mean, if it can successfully make maybe Pax Romana and or Imperium Romanum redundant, I think that'd be cool. That folks have an option that doesn't require so much additional, like I said, overhead to make work. So there you go, guys. Roma Victrix, campaigns in the Roman world. I'm very stoked to get this. I'm excited to see what can be done with it. Just got to get to punching and getting it ready. So thanks for watching. Take care. Hope this was useful. We'll see you in another video at some point. Take care. Keep gaming.